Hello and welcome back to our very last ELA lesson for Unit 6. What? I can't believe it's been 3 weeks. Can you? Oy. So anyway, the essential question that you must think about is going to be, what inspires a quest? So what would inspire you as an individual to go on a quest? I want you to think about that as you listen to our newest reading. I figured I'd do something different this time and let the computer read it. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you when it's all done.
Midwinter Day. An excerpt from The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper. The Dark is Rising is the second novel in an award-winning series of British fantasy adventures originally published between 1965 and 1977. On his 11th birthday, Will Stanton discovers he is one of the Old Ones, magical immortals, who work to keep the world safe from the evil and equally powerful Great Lords of the Dark. Will is on a quest to find 6 signs, medallions, that can repel the dark forces. Like the knights in King Arthur tales, Will, a force for good, must battle the forces of evil, called light and dark in the novels. Throughout the series, there are additional connections to King Arthur, from a search for the Holy Grail to characters similar to Merlin and the Lady of the Lake. In the excerpt that follows, Will has left his home and is questioned about being one of the Old Ones. He shows his medallion, which proves he is one of the Old Ones. Then, the evil rider appears, and the two do battle. Will walked a little way down the road, beneath its narrow roof of blue sky. He put a hand inside his jacket to touch the circle on his belt, and the iron was icy cold. He was beginning to know what that meant by now, but there was no sign of the rider. He could not even see any tracks left by the black horse's feet, and he was not thinking of evil encounters. He could feel only that something was drawing him, more and more strongly, towards the place where in his own time Dawson's farm would stand. He found the narrow side lane and turned down it. The track went on a long way, winding in gentle turns. There seemed to be a lot of scrub in this part of the forest. The branching tops of small trees and bushes jutted snow-laden from the mounding drifts, like white anglers from white rounded heads. And then round the next bend, Will saw before him a low square hut with rough daubed clay walls and a roof high with a hat of snow like a thick iced cake. In the doorway, paused irresolute, with one hand on the rickety door, stood the shambling old tramp of the day before. The long gray hair was the same, and so were the clothes and the wizened, crafty face.
1. Black Rider, Will's nemesis, one of the great lords of the dark.
Will came close to the old man and said, as Farmer Dawson had said the day before, "So the walker is abroad." "Only the one," said the old man. "Only me. And what's it to you?" He sniffed, squinting sideways at Will, and rubbed his nose on one greasy sleeve. "I want you to tell me some things," Will said, more boldly than he felt. "I want to know why you were hanging around yesterday. Why you were watching. Why the rooks came after you. I want to know, he said in a sudden honest rush, what it means that you are the walker. At the mention of the rooks, the old man had flinched closer to the hut, his eyes flickering nervously up at the treetops. But now he looked at Will in sharper suspicion than before. You can't be the one, he said. I can't be what?
2. Walker, a human who betrayed the forces of good and was cursed to carry one of the 6 signs. 3. Rooks, a type of crow. In the book, they are servants of the dark.
You can't be. You ought to know all this, especially about those hellish birds. Trying to trick me, eh? Trying to trick a poor old man? You're out with the rider, ain't you? You're his boy, ain't you, eh? Of course not, Will said. I don't know what you mean. He looked at the wretched hut. The lane ended here, but there was scarcely even a proper clearing. The trees stood close all round them, shutting out much of the sun. He said, suddenly desolate, Where's the farm? There isn't any farm, said the old tramp impatiently. Not yet. You ought to know. He sniffed again violently, and murmured to himself. Then his eyes narrowed, and he came close to Will, peering into his face, and giving off a strong repellent smell of ancient sweat and unwashed skin. But you might be the one. You might. If you're carrying the first sign that the old one gave you. Have you got it there, then? Show us. Show the old walker the sign. Trying hard not to back away in disgust, Will fumbled with the buttons of his jacket. He knew what the sign must be. But as he pushed the sheepskin aside to show the circle looped on his belt, his hand brushed against the smooth iron and felt it burning, biting with icy cold. At the same moment, he saw the old man leap backwards, cringing, staring not at him, but behind him, over his shoulder. Will swung round and saw the cloaked rider on his midnight horse. Well met, said the rider softly. The old man squealed like a frightened rabbit and turned and ran, blundering through the snowdrifts into the trees. Will stood where he was, looking at the rider, his heart thumping so fiercely that it was hard to breathe. It was unwise to leave the road, Will Stanton, said the man in the cloak, and his eyes blazed like blue stars. The black horse edged forward. Will shrank back against the side of the flimsy hut, staring into the eyes, and then, with a great effort, he made his slow arm pull aside his jacket so that the iron circle on his belt showed clear. He gripped the belt at its side. The coldness of the sign was so intense that he could feel the force from it, like the radiation of a fierce, burning heat. And the rider paused, and his eyes flickered.
4. Iron, one of the 6 signs, one that Will already has in his possession. The 6 signs are each made of a different material and represent a different element: wood, bronze, iron, water, fire, and stone.
So you have one of them already. He hunched his shoulders strangely, and the horse tossed its head. Both seemed to be gaining strength, to be growing taller. One will not help you. Not alone. Not yet, said the rider. he grew and grew, looming against the white world, while his stallion neighed triumphantly, rearing up, its forefeet lashing the air so that Will could only press himself, helpless against the wall. Horse and rider towered over him like a dark cloud, blotting out both snow and sun. And then dimly he heard new sounds, and the rearing black shapes seemed to fall to one side, swept away by a blazing golden light, brilliant with fierce patterns of white-hot circles, sun, stars. Will blinked, and saw suddenly that it was the white mare from the smithy, rearing over him in turn. He grabbed frantically at the waving mane, and just as before, he found himself jerked up onto the broad back, bent low over the mare's neck, clutching for his life. The great white horse let out a shrieking cry and leapt for the track through the trees, passing the shapeless black cloud that hung motionless in the clearing like smoke, passing everything in a rising gallop, until they came at last to the road, Huntercombe Lane, the road through Hunter's Combe.
5. Hunter's Combe, the fictional town where The Dark is Rising takes place. It is in Buckinghamshire, a county in south-central England.
The movement of the great horse changed to a slow-rising, powerful lope, and Will heard the beating of his own heart in his ears as the world flashed by in a white blur. Then, all at once, grayness came around them, and the sun was blacked out. The wind wrenched into Will's collar, and sleeves and boot-tops, ripping at his hair. Great clouds rushed towards them out of the north, closing in, huge gray-black thunderheads. The sky rumbled and growled. One white misted gap remained, with a faint hint of blue behind it still, but it too was closing, closing. The white horse leapt at it desperately. Over his shoulder, Will saw swooping towards them a darker shape even than the giant clouds. The rider, towering, immense, his eyes two dreadful points of blue-white fire. Lightning flashed, thunder split the sky, and the mare leapt at the crashing clouds as the last gap closed. And they were safe.
All right, that ends that, and I hope that you go back and you look at your prompts, figure out what you need to say, figure out what you need to put in there, and I look forward to reading each and everything that you submit. All right, have a good one. Bye.